Hello friends, welcome in this video. Today in this video, we will try to understand what is elegy. Elegy in the simplest form can be said as a death song. It is a poem which is written on the death of some person. He or she may be the friend of the poet, or he may be a public figure, or he or she may be some other person. So, in the very simple terms, any song which is mourning, which is lamenting the death of someone is elegy. It is meditative lyric poem lamenting the death of a public personage or a friend or a loved one. And by this extension, any reflective lyric on the broader theme of human mortality can be said as an elegy. And in the classical literature, an elegy was simply any poem written in the elegiac meter, that is, alternating lines of decyclic hexameter or pentameter, and was not restricted as to the subject of death. Though some classical elegies were laments, many others were love poems. In some modern literature, such as German, in which the classical elegiac meter has been adapted to the language, the term elegy refers to this meter rather than to the poem's content. But in English literature, since the 16th century, an elegy has come to mean a poem of lamentation. It may be written in any meter the poet chooses. The word elegy is derived from the Greek word elegus, which means a song of bereavement sung along with a flute. The forms of elegy we see today were introduced in the 16th century. A distinct kind of elegy is the pastoral elegy, which borrows the classical convention of representing its subject as an idealized shepherd in an idealized pastoral background and follows a rather formal pattern. It begins with an expression of grief and an invocation to muse to aid the poet in expressing his suffering. It usually contains a funeral procession, a description of sympathetic mourning throughout nature, and musing on the unkindness of death. It ends with acceptance, often a very affirmative justification of nature's law. The outstanding example of English pastoral elegy is John Milton's Lycidas, written in 1638 on the death of Edward King, a college friend of John Milton. Other notable pastoral elegies are Percy Bysshe Shelley's Adonis, written in 1821 on the death of the poet John Keats, and Matthew Arnold's Thyrsis on the death of the poet Arthur Hugh Clough. Other elegies observe no set patterns or convention. In the 18th century, the English graveyard school of poets wrote journalized reflection on death and immortality, combining gloomy, sometimes ghoulish imagery of human impermanence with philosophical speculations. The representative works are Edward Young's Night, Thou- Night Thoughts, Robert Blair's Grave, but the best known of these poems is Thomas Gray's more tastefully subdued creation, An Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard, written in 1751, which pays tribute to the generation of humble and unknown villagers buried in a church cemetery. In the United States, a counterpart to the graveyard mode is found in William Cullen Bryant's Thanatopsis, 1817, a wholly new treatment of the conventional pathetic fallacy of attributing grief to nature is achieved in Walt Whitman's When Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloomed. In the modern poetry, elegy remains a frequent and most important poetic statement. Its range and variation can be seen in such poems as A. E. Houseman's To an Athlete Dying Young, W. H. Auden's In Memory of W. B. Yeats, E. E. Cummings' My Father Moved Through Dooms of Love, John Pelle Bishop's Hours on F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Robert Lowell's The Quaker Graveyard in Nantucket. Some of the basic characteristics to be underlined in an elegy are here. Just like a classical epic, an elegy typically starts with the invocation of the muse and then proceeds by referencing traditional mythology. It often involves a poet who knows how to phrase thoughts imaginatively in the first person. Questions are raised by the poet about destiny, justice, and fate. The poet associates the event of the deceased with events in his own life by drawing a subtle comparison. This kind of digression gives the poet space to go beyond the main or crude subject to a deeper level where the connotations might be metaphorical. Towards the end, the poet generally tries to provide comfort to ease the pain of the situation. Christian elegies usually proceeds from sorrow and misery to hope and happiness because they say that death is just a hindrance in the way of passing from the mortal state into the eternal state. An elegy is not always based on a plot. To quote the famous elegy written by W. H. Auden in the memory of W. B. Yeats, with the farming of a verse, making a vineyard of the curse, sing of human unsuccess in a rapture of distress. In the deserts of the heart, let the healing fountain start. In the prison of his days, teach the free man how to praise. Thus, W. H. Auden is trying to praise and lament the death of W. B. Yeats. So, this is elegy we discussed today. So, if you have any queries, you can write your questions in the comment box. I will try to explain them in the comment box. Thank you.